after I'm like, hey,
Samira.
you know, anyway, it's good to have you back, right?
Thank you. Thank
after
you.
a long hiatus.
Yeah.
But, you know, thankful you are joining us for this conversation. You know, TV console, when I saw, I'm like, what's happening here? But I realized that it's one of the, you know, spaces, it's one of the things within, you know, the comfort or, you know, luxury space that has evolved a lot from fixing antenna cables in the back and standing on the table to check the TV poles.
Pako left kakra.
You know, like so many things.
Abba.
Oh, you remember, right?
I remember.
You know, back in the day we had like, and there was, back in the day there was like this big TV fitting frame where glasses and things were inside. You know, like it's evolved so much to now just a very simple design.
Almost nothing,
elegant.
yes.
You know, just tell us why you decided this is something we should talk about and why it's important that we pay attention to it, just to begin with.
Okay, so thank you. I realized over the period that a lot of people thought interior decor needs a lot of money. But sometimes it's just the simplicity and then focusing on certain areas or certain spaces in your room. And it can change a lot of things. With what you just described, yes, back in the day, we do a lot. We do too much with our TV area. We have almost anything and everything there. And then it keeps the TV wall a bit more bulky. And also when the place is not tidy or cleared up, then your room is almost stuffy. Now, there are so many options to choose from, depending on your lifestyle, depending on your budget, depending on the size of your space, depending on the color that you have. You can keep it very simple and it will still be very, very elegant. Now, there are different options. There are very modern options. There are very old, traditional options that you could evolve, you could change. All you need to do is to polish that old wood, take off all the extra things like the glasses, the spoons, and all of that from it, and then you still have a very simple TV console. When you have that clear wall, that clear space, and it shows off the TV, whether being it small, big, bulky, or whichever way it is, you combine it with a minimalistic wood or metal, and then it keeps the wall very simple. With that, you do less in the room as well, and you can have a very aesthetically pleasing space that is also very functional as well.
And you also entertain a lot of people in that particular space. So and most of times, you know, the TV is always on. So yeah, it should be nice and simple and all of that.
And then in current spaces as well, like I explained the other time, we have the TV area and we have the family area as well. Both could have TVs with TV consoles. You could choose to be dynamic here. You could keep one of the spaces very simple, basically just a TV and maybe nothing, or a small table beneath it. The other side could have, depending on the functionality you would want the TV console to perform. Some people like to keep their wines in there, so you could have one that is covered up, you open in and you put it in. Others would just want to have books arranged in there, so you could have a shelf-like backdrop that you could arrange your books if you're a book person. Others would just keep it simple and put a pot, a plant, and then leave it like that with just a few table ornaments and leave it just like that. So your space will really tell. So if you look at this video, for example, this lady could be a wine person. She doesn't have space in her house to probably put more wine, but she wants to keep her space very sophisticated, beautiful, and all of that. She takes what she wants, closes it back, and then it is there. You could never tell whether there is a wine shelf in there or not. It could be anything. Some could even do a storage. But of course, if you have a small space and you're using that for a storage, then of course you are careful with when to take out the stuff in there when your guests are around.
This is definitely me. This is definitely me.
Back in the day too, you know, it looked very clumsy. Like now, we're seeing modern trends, but for some reason we're okay with it. You know, you'd see speakers around, but now we see that like even the other equipment adjoining some of the television sets, like the speakers, even game consoles, they are able to be hidden in different parts, right?
Yes.
Talk to us about also trying to cater for other things, because for some people, outside the TV, they have like TV satellite decoders, right?
Yes.
So you have a DSTV, you know, the placement of it. Do you have like modern styles where you can hide all of these things somewhere so it doesn't look clumsy.
Absolutely, because then there's a fusion of technology now. Gone are the days you have the wires, you have everything there.
Sure.
But here you could put it through the wall. So when you're building or when you're constructing or when you're even doing a TV console, there could always be a layer. If you've already constructed your house, there could always be a layer between the TV console and the wall. And then behind that layer, you could have all the things they hidden. And then you just bring it out through the wall to the TV console. Now, where you have the DSTV, all those other satellite TVs, decoders and all of that, of course, that alone on your table or your console will not change or spoil the beauty of the space, so it's fine. But then with the other things, like we said, if your space is limited and that is the only space or option you have to have those things, then do not have a plain open console. Create one that could come off like a storage where the things could go in, you could close it off with a lot of other designs. There are so many things. There are panels, there are concrete, like fabrics, but they are not concrete. There are ones that look very, depending on the style you like, you can choose a material that can complement your room, so as then you can hide all these things behind it.
Interesting. Whose job is it really? Is it like an electrician or is an interior decor person?
It's a combination. It could be a carpenter, it could be an electrician, it could be an interior decor, it could be specialists in that space, because there are people who have certain styles that it doesn't take just the carpenter or the electrician to bring it together. It's a style in their mind, they're imagining it or they've seen it. Yes, the carpenter, the electrician could do it, but putting them together, it takes somebody who has the know-how to help to get it done. But of course, you don't also necessarily have to always pay the premium to get what you want. Yeah. There are very basic options one could choose and then rather create other spaces to have all the rest of the things there. But yes, there is something for everyone.
You said it. I know that it's probably your clothing here. You know, right now they say it's not
something for everyone.
Yeah, you see right now.
How are we budgeting for these things?
You see, for budget, like I say, there is really something for everyone. There are people who like very basic things. Some basic things could cost you a fortune. And then there are people who also like the whole lot of attention, glam, wants to see it there, wants to know that it's really in the space. It's allowed. Now, material will determine what kind of cost you are going to pay for the TV console you are going to use. If you're looking at something that is of ancient antique, it's also quite expensive because you may think it's simple, it's something old, but that the wood used is something that is very quality, very solid. And then there are other fabrics that are plastic, but look like what you are trying to, the feature you're trying to put there. So then when you budget something you can afford, and then from your budget, you now look for something that meets that budget. It's from a CD all the way to $1 million, depending on what you want. Yeah.
Let me come to you with a question I like asking a lot, right? And it's got to do with functionality and aesthetics, right? A lot of people are motivated by aesthetics. You can't even you can't discount it, right?
Absolutely.
Because they want to feel good about their space. They want to enjoy the look of their space. But when it comes to TV, right, the positioning of it, the arrangement of it, what should be the priority? Because I get people say you need to be mindful of your eye length view, right? Because if you are too close, it could be a problem.
Yes.
If you are too far, it was the point.
Yes.
You know, the quality of the screen. I don't want to go very technical with the brightness and all of that.
Absolutely.
But what should be the priority? You know, as a specialist with the space, should you say we should put the design first, or we should put
aesthetics first?
Yeah, just tidy up for us.
The size of your space would determine that.
Yeah.
So if you have a big space and you are looking at the aesthetics, absolutely, because then you can move all the other things that would require the console to be functional to you off and leave it very simple and add on all the designs and features you'd want. But if you have a very small space and you look at the aesthetics, where the aesthetics is minimalist style, does not have storage, then your space would suffer. Because at the end of the day, you have a very simple, beautiful wall, but then you have a lot of other things in your space where you host people. So it can be functional and still be aesthetically pleasing, or you could just leave it to the beauty. That's the aesthetically pleasing feature of it. And then make sure you have a space that could store or have the rest of your other things that you are not going to put on the screen by the TV. Because people put plates, spoons, glasses, bottles, and all of those other things by the TV. If they had enough space and they could create some storage somewhere else, then of course they should be able to move all of those things to those spaces. So it's the two. But the positioning of the TV and all of that, yes, it's a bit technical like you explained, and it's important because then you are hosting people in your space. You don't want your guest or yourself or your family raising their heads too high, bringing their heads too down, having too much brightness or closeness to the TV. So all these bits and pieces come together, and you need someone to help you put it together. If not, you could jump onto the internet, look at a few things, but then of course, choose the right technical people to fix it for you, so as then you can do it with them. If not, you have a total mess in your space.
It's interesting the way you respond, because I get a sense that the size of your space determines everything. There are people who have TV consoles in their kitchen. I was particularly surprised to have seen that people do it. I want to find out from you, is there a practice you'd encourage? Am I putting you on the spot?
No, it's fine. I'm just being careful to answer, because for me it's fine, because then there are various type of houses, spaces, and all of that, and it cuts across. There are different lifestyles as well. There's someone who could, maybe a woman who could probably be more of a kitchen person, spends a lot of time on maybe certain cuisines and would want to have a longer period in the kitchen. And let's say that this kitchen is a very big space. Why not?
Let me just, this kitchen I'm referring to actually there were like 3 kitchens in the house.
Absolutely.
And the house had an elevator. So
Absolutely.
for context.
Were there air conditions in the kitchen as well?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was going to add that what are people who also have air conditions in their kitchen? So it's allowed. If it's your lifestyle, you have the space, you admire beautiful things.
You don't have the money, so you won't see the point.
There is something for everyone.
I'm not even denying it, because I was saying that, Charlie, if we are going to do more money in this kitchen with this AC,
that's why they have 3 kitchens. I'm sure there's one that they do the more money and all those things.
We call it the wet kitchen, the out kitchen.
But I was like, if I are going to do more money in this, it will cause a problem. But for him, I know they don't even eat more money in the house. But another thing that I thought was a distraction.
Well,
because you can't be like having electrical appliances, possibly even gas. I don't remember seeing a gas cylinder there, but possibly even gas, and watching TV there, right? So I don't know, but I was thinking maybe the default position from somebody in your space would be like, see,
let me explain.
Because safety is a key thing for
Absolutely.
you, right? Especially in real estate.
Absolutely. So you're not going to have a kitchen that has a TV, maybe with a gas in there. There's a lot of things that come together to create that space. So of course, if I am creating your space and I know that you may want a TV, you may want an AC, you're going to be cooking there as well, I'll definitely have to consult my technical team to understand whether these 3 things can come together in the same space. So if I'm going to move my gas cylinder, even now, I would not advise anybody to be having their gas cylinders in their kitchen. Whether it's a modern house or it's a traditional and old house, you need to have it outside. So you get a longer tube to connect it through inside, because of course we've experienced a lot of fires, a lot of gas going wrong, and then fire. So then, with that said, if you're having a TV in there, you're having an AC in there, you're having a washing machine in there, you're having your burner in there, absolutely, we need to wire your house in such a way that the outlets are away from these things, so as then it does not cause fire and any other hazards. Yes.
Thank you for bringing clarity to this question. I thought it was some way, but
So
I see the sense. I see the sense.
Menus and how to prepare things.
Imagine a Gen Z in a house, in a kitchen with a TV, watching Love Island. you burn the house. You know.
She may have a chef there that may be assisting her.
That's assumption. But you know, my point is, if you have, they'll say I'm picking on ladies, right? Or you have a guy watching a Champions League final, at the same time trying to prepare tea with like hot electrical, you burn the house. You know, so my point is, do what you have to do in the kitchen. Let the kitchen be a kitchen. Let your watching area be a watching area. But I don't know, but I think...
So because of our lifestyle of late, and if I say lifestyle, it's a combination of a lot of things. You could be a career person, you have barely an hour or 2 or 3 in a particular space. You want to be watching your CNN and probably still be making a coffee. There are various gadgets, modern gadgets that allows the coffee to be done in a couple of minutes whilst you're also watching the TV. You have a toaster that maybe is probably not flammable. Then it depends on the kind of gadgets and equipment you have in that kitchen as well. I remember we did kitchen. So then if you have this combination, you minimize the hazard.
Interesting.
You can still watch your CNN and still do your coffee.
Dede, thank you so much. You brought a lot of clarity. You know, I was really initially skeptical about this conversation, but I think you hit it right on its head and, you know, brought a lot of clarity. We want to see you more often.
You will.
Make yourself available.
I'll be very available.